I will call this work session of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members are present with the exception of Ms. Rich. Our first meeting on our agenda is our second quarter goal setting. Council, you should have in front of you the revised Vision 2025 with Jonathan and I went through this and scrubbed it and moved everything. Really, there was just one, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, there's just one item we rolled from first quarter to second quarter,
That's
right?
correct. The Coppinville agreement, that agreement has, from the city side, been completed, turned over to Enterprise City Schools for them to review. It's still with them at this point.
So, and then two other additions, just really housekeeping here, the quarterly nuisance property updates and the quarterly customer experience update. We asked for those to be quarterly, so we've added those. So I'll just go down the list here. And Jonathan, if you want to, we've got about 30 minutes set aside for this. If you just want to remind us what we're doing here, and then, of course, we can ask any questions. So the first item is Rucker Boulevard connectivity study discussion. We're going to schedule a meeting to discuss that.
Yeah, so if you recall, in our comprehensive plan, we looked at some different routes that would further connect our arteries externally of the circle. So, you know, in a perfect world, we'd have like another bypass almost a mile or two out from the current bypass to connect a lot of those thoroughfares like 27, 134, 84 to Dothan. And so diving into that, we knew that that would be kind of not feasible from a financial standpoint to just build a second bypass anytime soon. So we looked at two routes that the council studied back to the council. And if you recall, there were 3 or 4 different options, but in total, to complete both of those was somewhere near $42 million, which isn't economically feasible for us, and continue to do other things like pave streets and make payroll, as an example. So, you know, we don't have the resources to do a $42 million road project. So really that study and discussion needs to center around us going back to SANE and really with the council and drilling down on are there portions of that we would like to do, and over time, you know, what could we do if we spent the next 10 years working on, you know, one segment of that corridor, and is that something that the council would like us to pursue or not? So that might entail, you know, doing engineering and design work. It might entail acquiring rights of way through certain areas to go ahead and purchase property. But there's a lot of steps that would need to be done before you just built a road. And so if any of that makes sense, or you'd like to, you know, in detail get into what our next steps might be, I think it would be good to kind of sit down and spend, you know, 30 minutes to an hour deciding what that might look like. On the Parks and Rec maintenance facility, we are very close to having that complete. If you've been up 167 near the Yancey Parker Industrial Park, you'll see the building's probably 85-90% complete. There's some things that need to be done on the exterior of the facility, around the parking, and maybe some fencing that need to be completed. But we're on track to get that done in quarter 2. The employee benefit discussion, this is something that I think Councilman Johnson has talked about. I think right after I was hired about 4 years ago, we talked about Tier 1 versus Tier 2. There was a decision point that needed to be made. Council decided to go with Tier 2 retirement. Councilman Johnson has asked that that got added to our quarterly discussion. And so, you know, I think at some point during Q2, we would be prepared to talk about, you know, the cost-benefit analysis of that again and let you make a determination. One thing that has changed since that time, you know, we had a deadline, we had to decide, or we couldn't do it. We couldn't go back to Tier 1. Since that time, about 2 years after that deadline, the state passed a law to open that back up, that a city could opt into Tier 1 at any time. Let's see, brief counsel on the healthcare study. As you recall, we partnered with the Enterprise Healthcare Authority to look at a study. Typically, their current focus is on nursing and rehabilitation. So they asked us if we wanted to look at a deeper dive of a community healthcare assessment, that the city partner with them and fund that. So we funded 75% of that study. The healthcare authority funded 25% because it only dealt with what their current focus has been. And so we have the results of that study, and I think it would be prudent sometime during Q2 to ask Wes to come by and kind of brief the council on what the results were and where they found we were falling short or maybe having success within our healthcare industry in the city. ALDOT on 167 signalization. February 26th, the mayor and I met with ALDOT. At the end of this week, we had two things that we met about, not just 167 signalization. And I think ALDOT did come back and say that the warrants justified signalization at that intersection.
That's this intersection?
Correct, 167 and Salem Road. So what that means, who's paying for it, all those kind of things are not determined at this point. And when funding would become available to do something about it. But I do think that they have it on their radar now. This Friday, Barry Mott, myself, Pat Henderson, our local ALDOT person, and some folks from Montgomery are going to meet, talk about not just that, but also safety improvements in front of Enterprise Shopping Center in Westgate. They have a plan that they would like to use HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Funds, to go after and fix that. One of their concerns was whether or not the public would like what the suggestions were, because it's not an easy fix to deal with the service roads in front of both of those shopping areas. What the mayor and I told them was that we were concerned about the safety of the community over whether or not the public necessarily liked it. And so we haven't seen what they're going to propose, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because there could be, similar to when they proposed a roundabout, we didn't ask them to design a roundabout, we asked them to improve the safety at Shellfield and 27. And what ALDOT had come back with initially was a roundabout. And obviously we met with some public resentment towards that safety improvement. So is the council still of the opinion that you want the safety issue addressed, or is there a particular, if it's not something that's popular with the public, does that matter?
Well, I think we definitely, for the safety, and I'm glad to hear they're talking about that intersection. That's awesome news. The other side, though, would they be willing, or would it be prudent to have a town hall or meeting like they've done before to say, hey, here's what we're proposing? Or does that open a can of worms?
No, so that's a great question, Councilman. So there would always be a public involvement process for any of their projects. It always comes down to money and what they can execute.
Right.
So if money was no object, there's probably some way that they could redirect roads and redesign things. Mm-hmm. But it will inevitably be an obstacle unless the city decides to make up the difference. So what they have designed, as I understand it, would be covered by HSIP, which is typically a max of about $2 million. So it would be in that neighborhood. So if there was a $5 million solution the city liked better, the city would need to prepare to come up with the additional $3 million to make it happen.
Now, I assume that in addition to safety, any design presentation, they would also give us information on expected changes to throughput of all of the intersections. Throughput meaning, how many vehicles can we actually put through it, in comparison to today's situation?
It would. It analyzes, so basically the data, in order to show that it's safer, they have a lot of data that they collect.
Right.
It may be the number of points of intersection. So if you recall at a four-way signalized or a four-way intersection, there's 32 points of intersection, basically where people can collide. People turning to the left, to the right, people coming straight, where they could collide. The roundabout reduced that to 8. So that was their big determinant on that, and then they subsequently showed the speeds that people would be traveling going through the roundabout on a typical intersection versus. So they would do a similar presentation at that public hearing, talk about how they derived that the improvements they were making would be safer for the public.
Yeah. So I think as far as public dissatisfaction or angst, I think ultimately if it improves safety and it improves throughput, I think ultimately after everybody got used to it, I think everybody would be happy with it. They may be.
Well, they don't like what's there now, so.
Right, yeah, I mean.
There's got to be an improvement.
And they may not like the fix, but if the fix is safer and improves throughput, then I think eventually they would have to admit that this is an improvement.
Okay. We'll relay that at our meeting on Friday. Complete the soccer complex. I do think that is probably not an attainable second quarter goal. I think it'll probably be third quarter in talking to Mr. Mott today. So I'll make a note on there that probably needs to be a Q3 goal. And I do think that the next bullet point there, complete Bellwood. I think the Daleville Avenue sidewalks is a good goal for Q2. That should be completed. But Bellwood will probably not be completed in Q2. It may be started in Q2. Again, complete City Hall, May 9th, building turnover. That is still on schedule at this point. My understanding was if you go by City Hall, they have put in the flagpoles today on the exterior. So we're still about a month and 8 days away from finishing. I think when we talked about that at our staff meeting today, some people wondered if that was an April Fool's joke or not. But it turns out we're still much on schedule for that, and I think all of our staff and certainly the public will appreciate it when it's done. Phase 5 street projects, those have been bid on already and were awarded at the last council meeting. We anticipate by the end of the month, Phase 5 will start, and it should take about 90 days to complete. So I think all of you have been notified of the streets on the Phase 5 street resurfacing list. We've publicized that. I think it's still on our website. Emily, is that right? The Phase 5 street list. So if the public has any questions about that, if you would like, I know that these can change to some degree. In other words, we may have a water line replacement project or something that comes up, but if you would like, we can probably get to a point where we can post Phase 6 and Phase 7 street resurfacing to kind of let people know what's next on the list or when their street might be queued. We do have the next 5 years kind of programmed. I anticipate that probably 10 to 15% of those streets might move from one year to another. A lot of it will depend on, budget, if we have the resources or not to do $1.5 million or $2 million. That could move a street here or there, or a street may rise to the level that it has to be resurfaced sooner, or a water project may delay a street. But in essence, I think probably 85% of those streets will stay on that schedule. So is that something you would like us to consider posting?
I like that idea, as long as we disclaim that, you put something at the top and the bottom in bold that says, this is the current plan, and then list maybe multiple reasons, like you just said, whether it's budget, water, other extenuating circumstances that could cause some shifting in which phase a specific street falls in. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Does everybody,
Yeah, I agree.
does anybody have any issues with that?
Wish that we'd had this going on
The other two, Councilman Townsend already alluded to, but we'll just keep doing our quarterly updates on customer service experience for city services and nuisance properties. No real change there. The PCI study, that proposal, I think we're pretty close to having one this quarter to you. I think when that was done maybe 7 or 8 years ago, it was about $150,000 to do an update. It's just under $100,000 is what we were quoted by Barge. Is that something that reasonable number for you to consider us moving forward with to bring you something at a future council date to consider?
Would we want that to be a FY '26 budget item, or are y'all wanting to go ahead and do it?
I think we have funds to cover it if you would like us to.
Barry, I assume you're still recommending that, because I guess we'll be, did we do that in 19 or 20? I know you just said.
I want to say we got the results in 18 or 19.
You remember, Barry? Okay, so it's been about 6 years. So you think every 5, 6, 7 years is just a good.
You know, typically what spawns these PCI studies is kind of a milestone. And since we've paved, I don't know, somewhere between a quarter and a half the roads in the city, at least the low PCIs, I think this would be very worthy for us to do it now. The other point of that is when we did the original study, we didn't have a degradation curve for how the city streets are degrading over time.
Mm-hmm.
And you need 2 points
Yeah.
to kind of find out where we are. So we've only had one real study done. I'd love to have a second one because that would give us some better forecasting for long-term planning for what to do. Like we knew we had the worst streets and we've done the worst streets first. However, you know, the PCI was originally like a 42, and we think that number now is up closer to a 70 as far as our average. Now that's averages based upon the number of streets, and it's also averaged upon the number of miles of road.
So you get
if you
the
compare
same
the two of
answer.
them. But what we don't know is how the streets have come down. Like we've taken all the 12s and made them a 95, but we don't know if there was a 70, is it now a 65? Is it holding close to 70? Is it a 50? Like how are
Is
the
that number you're giving us 70, was it forecasting what that 70 was, or did you hold it at 70?
I held all the other streets that we didn't touch at the same number,
Okay.
and I took the streets that were very poor that we repaved, and I took them to like a 95. I didn't take them to 100. I took them to in the mid-90s.
Okay.
So I think we'll be in the ballpark for what that number is, but I'd love to have the same team do the same study with the same equipment. That way we have a true apples and apples comparison, and we can negotiate the fees and all, but that's a ballpark for what the cost would be. But I do recommend this because we've paved so many streets. I'd love to see us go back, and then we can make some longer plans for what the city would like to do long-term to keep the roads higher on the list.
Everybody good with that? All right, sounds like we've got consensus to move forward with that, bring us something.
Real quick, while I've got the microphone, I did get an update today from the consultant, CDG, which did the original design for the roundabout that turned into the signalization, and there's been some discussion about where are we on time frame for that project as well. So it was procured, it did go to letting, and the contractor was selected. However, it's still in procurement, meaning that they've ordered the equipment and they're waiting on the signal poles to come in for that signalization. And they're expecting that project to begin sometime in June of this year. So there is a lag time by the time you order the equipment and the time that the poles and the signals get here. I just want to give you a quick update that project is moving forward, and it's in ALDOT's hands. That's an ALDOT project, ALDOT-led, ALDOT-funded project, construction-wise.
So last note on under Q2 on page 1 is the CDBG demo grant plan. That was submitted and approved by the council. I think we've advertised now for a couple of weeks for public involvement. Anybody that would like to take advantage of that program. I think this is our 4th iteration of the CDBG grant program. And basically, that's a demo grant that homeowners, predominantly homeowners, can go to and, self-initiate their property being demolished. So we are currently 2 weeks into that. We had a $450,000 grant from ADECA to do that. And I think that was on an 80-20 basis. So we provided 20% of those funds. I do believe that from what I'm hearing, that will help us. We budgeted around $800,000 as part of our nuisance property. I do believe that that grant can help offset, as some of the note I got this morning, in fact, from Thomas, said that there were at least 3 property owners, some of those were for quadplexes along Dixie Drive, have already voluntarily submitted into that CDBG grant program that were on our Phase 2 nuisance property. So they're not even going to wait for the judicial process, or they have already said, we agree these things need to come down. You've got a mechanism for us to do it. Take them down. So I think that's another big win for our nuisance property, as people see that the city's serious about, bringing down properties that are dilapidated and structurally not safe, that they're deciding to do the right thing on their own when they've got a carrot to do that. So that's another success story from that program. Again, 20 units from the nuisance property list to council per quarter. We're already well ahead of that goal because we had 20 that were, the judgment came in for them to be demolished in the first quarter, but we already had 21 people already sign up to either mitigate their property on their own or demolish it. So we're somewhere in the 40s right now on that. So hopefully we'll continue to keep that pace. And just like the email I got from Thomas today, that added almost another 10 properties that we're going to self-mitigate to the list. Rucker Boulevard redevelopment study. Thomas and I did meet with Sane and Associates, and I hope to get you a project scope and cost estimate in Q2 on that. If you remember, we talked about the study that I think I showed the council along Opelika Road in Auburn. They did a redevelopment plan along that corridor, and I think that was somewhere around 2014 that was initiated. And I don't have pictures to show you, but if you've been to Auburn in the last year or two and can look along Opelika Road today versus what it was when they initiated that plan in 2014, it certainly made a difference in that area. I don't know, have any of you seen that transformation or are familiar with it?
I've seen it. It's dress.
Yes, I am.
Excellent, actually.
I'm very familiar.
So once we get that to you, the thought process when the council talked about that during our strategic planning meeting was to take that plan and hopefully enact it. And again, their plan was over a 10, 15-year period. It didn't say, next year we're going to spend $10 million and all things will be done. But we all, I think, have experienced some of the blight and staleness along Rucker Boulevard over the last 10 or 20 years. And so trying to come up with, instead of the city coming up with how do we fix this, having somebody come in and evaluate that on what options we might have to spend money, pass ordinances, whatever it is that we could do to help start to make improvements along Rucker Boulevard, whether that somebody says that you need to put in 5 miles of sidewalks or you need to put in landscaping or lights or whatever that looks like. But we don't know. But hopefully this will give us a roadmap, and then as funds become available or prioritized by the council or a future administration, we'll be able to address that. Again, the old Coppinville agreement, I just said that earlier, it's with Enterprise City Schools, and then reevaluate the comprehensive plan. Again, that's having KPS come down and talk about our green space, the old junior property in particular, connectivity, and then Rucker Boulevard. So I think probably 2 of those items I talked about earlier are kind of lumped in with that. But those are the areas that we're working on. So the one that hasn't been touched on is the green space. And we need to get KPS again to hopefully come down and give us a proposal on that. I can get that for you during Q2 and then present it to you.
All right. Any questions about anything that Jonathan spoke about that's already on the list?
No.
Sounds like, of course, we all made this list, so we should be familiar with it, and it wasn't all that long ago. And just as a reminder, kind of our process that we've agreed to, we get together every quarter. We load staff, Jonathan, Mayor, and their staff's wagons, and we agree not to throw any more rocks on the wagon for another 3 months. So, now, if there's something big that we need to bring forward, now's a good time to do that, and we can discuss whether that's something that can be fit into this quarter, or if we want to just add it to our futures issues list, for future consideration, which is on the next page. There's nothing on there currently. Does anybody have anything that's really got a burr under their saddle, or something you're hearing from your constituents that's not already on our list? All right. Sounds good. Well, we will move on to the next item on our agenda then, which is board appointments. Jonathan, did you bring anything on that, or we just need to talk about it?
I haven't. I saw your email to the council earlier.
Yeah.
I can pull up what I sent you.
Yeah, why don't Jonathan and I worked on this yesterday, and obviously we miscommunicated. We should have had a printout, but you think you can have somebody by the time we leave here tonight print out that?
I can, and I'll get it before you leave tonight, council.
Okay, but we can talk about it briefly if y'all just want to take notes here.
So the first one that I had was the Board of Education.
Yeah.
So what I had in my notes was that was for District 5.
Right, which is me. So, and I sent y'all a resume this morning, or this afternoon, I think, for Sean Buckner. So that's going to be my nominee for that. That's the only nomination that has a statutory date set on it, that we need to do that in the month of April, right?
Yes, sir.
So all of our other appointments, don't have statutory dates set to them. So I wanted to go ahead and get that name out there, get the resume to you, so that it's in the public record, because we, as you remember, we like to say the names out loud and then kind of lay them over. So go ahead.
Okay, so the next one is the Airport Authority. Mr. Ron Farrell's term expires July 1st, and that is for District 1. I will tell you that I have contacted, if there's somebody in that seat that has expired, I went ahead and contacted them just to see if they were willing to continue to serve. That's obviously your choice, but Mr. Farrell did indicate that he was willing to continue to serve if asked.
What's his first name again?
Ron, R-O-N.
And which district has that
District
nomination?
1.
District 1, so that'd be
And this is
Sonia.
Airport Board.
Airport Authority, yes, ma'am.
And I will say, I've been on the Airport Authority for the last 9 years, and we've yet to meet.
And we are working on that.
Are you-
Barry and I have been talking about it lately.
You said you've yet to meet?
Right, and that doesn't mean that the Airport Authority doesn't run the airport, so it's a little bit of a naming.
It's more of an advisory council in nature. I think initially when it was established, there were some statutory powers that an airport authority could seek grant funding through. Obviously, our airport's not in our city limits. It's in the police jurisdiction. And I think that at the time that it was incorporated, it was done for a specific purpose of qualifying for some grant activity, and subsequently has, through inactivity in meetings, has really ceased to have a good purpose, but that just takes a re-energized leadership initiative to get them back and helping out on whatever direction they'd like the airport to go.
And again, when does this,
It's
the
July,
next
his term expires July 1st.
I think all the others, don't we have them
Or
set up?
June 30th.
Yeah, it's June 30th will be the last day, and
Yes, sir.
so we don't have to do this. What I would recommend, if we can, is bring of course, Jonathan's going to tell us whether the person in the seat is willing to serve again. Obviously, that'll be entirely up to us whether we want to do that or not. But bring your nominations, if you can, the names to the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, and then that would, then we could put those to a vote at the first meeting in May. That would be ideal. Of course, we'll go ahead and do school board next meeting if we can.
Okay. The Industrial Development Board, Philip Wilkes' term expires on June 30th. That is for District 2 nomination.
Which is Eugene.
Correct. And Philip has indicated he would be willing to serve if asked. The Zoning Board of Adjustments, so this one is one in the past that we have kind of forgotten about, our supernumeraries. So if you can bear with me, Ms. Ann Burgett, she resigned from her term effective already. And that's a District 2 nomination.
Which is Eugene.
Additionally, Gwen Gillies' term expires June 30th, and that's a District 4 nomination. Ms. Gilly has indicated she would be willing to serve. So one suggestion in how we've looked at this in the past is the supernumerary. We have a supernumerary 6 position and 7. So 5-member board, and 6 and 7 are supernumeraries. It would be to elevate the supernumerary 6 to fill Ms. Burgett's seat, and then elevate supernumerary 7 to supernumerary 6. And then
What are their names?
So Lance Phillips is in supernumerary 6, and Jody Linton is in supernumerary 7. And so one option would be to elevate supernumerary 6 to the vacant seat by Ms. Ann Burgett, supernumerary 7 to supernumerary 6, and then to fill supernumerary 7, which would be my recommendation.
And I think that's how we kind of agreed that we needed to do that going forward.
Yeah, so those supernumerary folks are actually going to the meetings. They fill in when there's absences. And so they're actually learning, how the Board of Adjustments works, the rules, our zoning policy. And so they would be ready to fill that seat, would be the reason that I would suggest that. However, that's up to you, Councilman Goolsby, in this case, to bring a nominee. But my recommendation would be to bring a nominee to take a supernumerary position instead of filling the board right away.
Everybody good with that? So that would be sliding Lance Phillips up to Ann Burgett's seat, sliding Jody Linton and Lance Phillips' supernumerary seat, and then filling the empty supernumerary seat with a new person
That's correct.
by Eugene.
And then, obviously, if Councilman Johnson, if you have somebody else that you would like to nominate for Ms. Gillies' seat, that's your prerogative.
But she's willing to serve.
She is.
And if he chooses to nominate somebody else, we probably need to pull up Jody Linton into that seat and nominate another supernumerary.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So just let us know where you're leaning on that.
The Mental Health Board, Mr. Warren Bowron's term expires June 30th. That is a District 2 nomination. And Councilman Townsend, I don't I don't remember what Mr. Bowron said about that.
He is, he's going to step aside, so that is a vacant, a completely vacant seat.
Okay.
So that's Eugene's nomination.
Okay. Then the Incubator Advisory Committee, Mr. Neil Brown passed away, and his seat is vacant. Larry Milner's seat expires June 30th. And so of those, Mr. Milner has indicated he would be willing to serve if asked. Those are 4-year terms. So there's one vacancy.
Which district's assigned to the completely vacant?
I believe that would be District 4
So that's Scotty.
and District 3 for Mr. Milner's
So
position.
that's Greg.
The last board that I will yield to Councilman Townsend on is our library board. I believe we have 2 vacancies.
I would need to pull up my notes from our meeting yesterday.
In that,
Just a second. You don't have that spreadsheet in front of you?
I don't. I'll see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, I'll do the same. But you're right, it's 2 vacancies. Okay, I got it right here. All right, so so one of them is Ben Bowden's seat. And he's not able to serve another term, and that was assigned to me, to District 5.
Then there was one for District 1 that I'm showing with Carolyn McInnes.
Yep, so
And
Sonia's is Carolyn McInnes.
And I believe our librarian sent a note that she was willing to continue to serve.
Yeah. Got it. So we will, if you didn't take good notes on that, don't fret. We've got all this in writing.
I hope so.
And it looks like, yeah, everybody's just got a couple. So I've got Board of Education and a library seat. Sonia, you've got a library seat and an airport authority, but both of those, if you so choose, are willing to be reappointed. Eugene, you've got the ID board. If Mr. Wilkes is willing to serve. You've got a zoning board of adjustments and a mental health. Then Greg, you've got an incubator, and Scotty, which he's willing to serve. Scotty, you got a zoning board of adjustments and an incubator, and Gwen is willing to serve on the zoning board of adjustments. So your only one you got to find is an incubator, unless you choose to go a different route. So, but we'll get that to you. My apologies on that. Everybody still good with how we're handling this? All right. So we will move forward on that. Let's turn to our agenda in our big packet. All right, we'll open our meeting, of course, with roll call, opening prayer and pledge of allegiance, and approving the agenda. Then the consent agenda. Stop me if y'all want to pull something out, but I'll just rattle these off. So we've got work session minutes and meeting minutes from March 18th. We've got accounts payable A and B. A for $1.6 million, B for $903. Then contract billings for Holland Contracting for the corporate hangar. That's the retainage billing of $83,000. Ardura Group for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades of $10,000. Wiregrass Construction for our resurfacing Phase 3A of $427,000. Lewis for our TAP sidewalk project for right at $70,000. Then Polly's got a few invoices here for the sidewalk project, the resurfacing project, and for Dozier Road improvements for $11,000, $1,500, and $1,800 respectively. Ewan Connors billing for the 2024 CDBG for contract administration of $5,000, and we've got a list, I'm not going to read it, from the fire department and the municipal court for disposing of inventory. Then airport, Public Works has the same of disposal of inventory. Any questions or concerns on the consent agenda? All right, next item are some mayoral proclamations. The month of the military child, the National Community College Month. Then a request from Javier Delgado, Beacon of Hope, for a permit request. Let's see, that's at Bates Memorial Stadium. So, Blake, anything we need to know? I'll ask him in the meeting. But we've got another request to address council for a permit request for, let's see, are we going to close any streets here? We're going to close East and West College Street, so nothing on Main Street. We approved this before, but they're changing the name. So we've already approved this. It's just a applicant name change. Then we've got another permit request for Amanda Simmons and Christian Missionaries. I see y'all are here. Do y'all wish to y'all want to hang around for the regular meeting, or you want to go ahead and talk about this? Yeah. Yeah. I would recommend now, or you're going to be hanging out for another hour and 20 minutes.
Sure thing. So I'm Amanda Simmons. I'm Assistant Executive Director with the Christian Mission. Sorry. So we've been trying to make some fundraising a priority within our organization. We have a recovery program that is free to the participant, but is very costly to our organization. So one of our fundraising ideas was to have a 5K recovery run here in Enterprise with a attention to OD awareness. So I know I've already gotten with the rec department about utilizing Bates Stadium, and I'm just waiting to see about the potential green light through the city council on being able to do that. June 28th is Saturday from 8 to 12 is what we have down. We have potential vendors that we would like to set up inside of Bates Stadium to do other promotions, work with other organizations that support recovery. So what else? Is there anything else I need to?
Does council have any questions? So do we know if have we talked to Chief Moore about this yet?
I have not yet.
Okay. Y'all have? Okay. So I just see Chief Moore isn't here, but yeah. So we've gotten a green light on that. Okay. So as long as Chief Moore doesn't have any issues, I don't think we're going to have any issues, right? All right. So I think we're good.
Our goal, I do want to mention this, our goal is to make this an annual recovery run, so I'll probably see y'all next year, same
All
time.
right. Well, great.
All
Well,
right.
best of luck with your event. Thank you for coming out and explaining it to us.
Thank you.
All right, next item is another permit request from Brett Woodruff of Mitchell's CDJR. I don't see anybody here to present on that. So it's, looks like a street closure of College Street, Easy Street, South Edward Street. Jonathan, we're good on the rest of these. Emily, as far as you know, no issues with Chief on those. I know we're not closing down Main Street on any of these, so. All right, then we'll move on to privilege of the floor and staff reports, and move to old business, which we introduced last meeting, our personnel rules and regulations, basically our employee handbook. Does anybody have anything, any questions for that? We've had several weeks to review. Jonathan, you got anything to add?
Really, the only thing I want to add, just in case some of our employees are watching, one of the big questions that we've gotten is, they were hired 5 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Are we changing any rules on them? In other words, impacting their ability for retirement, to save vacation days? So there's some big bold letters in that handbook on the first couple of pages that specifically address that. The answer is no. So this will not impact any current employees to their detriment. The additions that we're making will make it better for our employees, certainly our future employees. One of the key things in there is that it will allow us to, instead of waiting 10 years to get additional vacation time, it'll go to 5 years. So there are changes like that, but it should be in the employee's favor. It should help our managers be able to help people be more accountable as well. We have bereavement leave and other things in there that are addressed more specifically to make it easier for employees to know, if they have a death in the family, who that is, how much time they get off. But none of the changes that were made were meant to be punitive to our existing employees. That was outlined in there, and I just wanted to make sure that you are all aware of that as well.
All right, any other questions, comments on that? All right. Chief, there's a few permits in the agenda. If you'll just look at that and just let us know if there's any issues. No rush on that, just before the meeting, let us know if there's any issues. All right, next item are new business items. So public hearing consideration of resolution 040125, which is to declare weed a nuisance. So all we're doing here is calling for a public hearing, right? Or are we? Or no, are we having a public hearing? We're having a public hearing this evening. Okay. All right, so this is 0 Curry Alley. Thomas, you want to come tell us about this?
Yes, Council. So this is a 0 Curry Alley. There was a structure on this property probably 10 years ago, but within our ordinance, we are allowed to go in when there was a structure present on a piece of property at really any time in its history that has been neglected or allowed to grow up. So this piece of property has been pretty much completely taken back by nature, but there are, apologize, my allergies. But there is a way that we're able to go in there and abate the underbrush without disturbing the trees or anything like that, which will allow us to clean up that area because the neighbors in the area are complaining about the property that is overgrown. Of course, it being a place where you have rodents and snakes and things of that nature that are nesting in there, so forth and so on. And so we went through the process, sent out the letter, posted the signs. We have not heard anything back from the owner of this property, and so we've brought it to you for us to go into public hearing and go through the process as normal.
All right, well, we'll hold that public hearing and see how it goes. Thanks, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Any questions of Thomas? Of course, we'll have opportunities in the public hearing to ask that. So next item is consider a change order for the resurfacing improvements. Barry, do you want to tell us about this change order? It increases the contract time by 83 days and adjusts the amount to the final of 4.276024 and 14.
Yeah, Barry asked me if I would address it. There's a couple things. If you recall back when we had a Phase 3, there was a large number of streets on that. So we split that into two phases, basically 3A and 3B. 3B has been closed out. 3A was open left open mainly because we had the Dozier Road improvements, and we decided to do Dozier Road as a change order. So we decided to use 3A as the mechanism for that. So that's why it has drug out as long as it has. But we are to the point now to where we can close out 3A. We underrun the contract amount, or decrease in the contract amount, by $328,153.11. There was a slight increase in contract time. Just to recall, Phase 3B, when we closed it out, there was an underrun of $245,362 on that. And if you recall, when we had that discussion, those two underruns was going to help offset the Dozier Road improvements, and that's kind of the way it worked out.
All right, any questions on that? All right, thanks, Glenn. Now we've got a task order number 63 for pre-demolition asbestos reports. So not to exceed $75,000.
Yes, sir. So part of the demolition project that you went on the first time for the city to take down those structures, for us to either put it out to bid or do it in-house, we need to get an asbestos and lead testing on those facilities to know what kind of hazardous materials needs to be done to abate those before we do a demolition. So this is a task order to have Polly go in there and do that lead and asbestos testing and give us a report back so we know if there is anything, what we would need to do to mitigate that prior to demolition.
All right, any questions on the asbestos testing? Next item is to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement for the Boyville Circle widening design for Volkert Incorporated.
So at your direction, part of to get ahead of the widening of the Boyville Circle on the southern area, there's 3 sections of that road that need to be 4-laned to complete the 4-laning of the bypass. So I reached out to a couple of the consultants to interview them to talk about what that would look like. And what you have before you is a contract that I recommend. If you want to move forward with widening to a 4-lane of the rest of the bypass, that is a firm that is on AlDOT's list that is highly reputable in doing this type of work. We have gone through and done a preliminary analysis already of that and to validate some preliminary construction numbers for what that would be, and have validated those numbers as well. So this would take the project all the way up through bid phase to have it construction shovel ready at that point if you wish to move forward with this.
All right, everybody still comfortable with this? I know we've been talking about this for a little while. All right. Authorize the police chief to execute an MOU for Transaction Record Analysis Center.
Good evening, council. So this is another tool for investigations. This gives us access and ability when crimes happen against our citizens, for example, which the big scam was going around to pay bills to give people green cards, the little green dot cards. Those used to be untraceable. Once it got on there, it went away. There was a large issue with it, so they started to be able to do stuff. Well, this gives our investigators the ability to look into those type of crimes and possibly solve them. It is free of charge. It's just something we have to sign to give us access after the training. So.
Any questions? All right, thanks, Chief. Next item is another thing for you, Chief, to execute the MOU for South Central Alabama Mental Health Board.
Yes, sir. This has just begun. The South Central Mental gives us another ability to contact somebody if somebody's having a mental crisis. They work with us. We work with them to either get them the medical need that they need, or a bed, or someplace safe that they can go.
Any questions on this? All right, next item is the request for improvements to splash pad. Blake?
Good evening, council. This is a budgeted item. We'll start with the $5,500 one. This will replace the old one that is dated. Currently, it cannot communicate its recordings to us with the splash pad, and we cannot monitor that in a safe manner as it stands right now. The $3,985, 2 years ago, the computer system crashed out on us. And so currently, it's on a timer. That timer, as it sits right now, will run all day long, no matter if somebody's out there or not. This system that we'll put in place will be timed on 15 minutes on motion activation. So every 15 minutes, it'll cut off. If the kids, if you got a bunch of kids out there, they can go over. It turns into a game really for them. They'll go back over there, hit the motion sensor, the water comes back on. So overall, this will be a good thing where it's not running currently. And then there's a $35 monthly charge, so this will notify us on the phone if something were to go wrong out there, especially on the weekends when we don't have anybody on staff. If there's something that goes wrong with the splash pad, it'll notify us and we can get somebody on the scene pretty quick.
All right, sounds good. Any questions? All right, that's all for the council meeting. Then we've got the minutes of the March 4th E911 board meeting to approve, and accounts payable A of $2,500 for E911 board. Chief, anything we need to know about that? Yep. All right. So, council, that is our agenda. Any additions or deletions for tonight's meeting? Everybody good with the agenda as it stands? All right. Next item on our work session agenda is a request from our city administrator and city attorney to go into executive session regarding an economic development discussion. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for that.
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session for the purposes of economic development. We expect this will last for about 50 minutes or so, and then we will return. We will not discuss anything else in work session, but we will reconvene in our regular council meeting at 6 o'clock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, how's it going with you?
It's going.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? All right. Hey, man. The dog on pop.
Oh, gosh, my head wanna hurt right now. I'm on.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 6 o'clock, so I will call this meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all council members are present. If you would, please stand with me for the opening prayer and pledge of allegiance. We've got Associate Pastor Joey Barrett with College Avenue Church of Christ who will open us in prayer.
Real quick before we pray, I spoke to you guys a couple years ago with a large group of people about pickleball. Yes. And every time I see you guys, I'm just going to thank you for listening to us that night and building us courts. There are a lot of people you all bringing joy to because you did what you did. And a lot of people from this community are playing in tournaments all over the place and winning tournaments, and that wouldn't be possible without you guys. So thank you. Let's pray. Dear Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening. We're thankful for another day on this earth. Just appreciate all the blessings of life that you give to each and every one of us. Father, we ask your blessing upon this community. We pray, Father, that this community can continue to grow, that this can be a place especially for young people to grow up safely and to have good values instilled within them. And I just appreciate the school systems that we have here that are trying to do that, and moms and dads as well. And I just pray for all of them. God, just ask that you give our leaders here in this town a clear mind to consider things for the betterment of all. And Father, we pray that you forgive us when we err, when we sin against you. And Father, we're so thankful for you sending your Son to die on the cross. And we pray that each and every day that we can be a little bit more like him. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Council, you've got in front of you the agenda we discussed in the work session just prior to this meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda of the meeting as submitted.
I move to approve the agenda of the meeting as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda of the meeting. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I'll now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Let the record show that I'll be abstaining due to a conflict with accounts payable B. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now have a mayoral proclamation for the month of the military child. I'll call upon Mayor Cooper, who will now read a proclamation declaring April as Month of the Military Child in the City of Enterprise.
Before I read this proclamation, we would like to ask the military children if they would come up front, please. And also representatives from Fort Noble said if you would come up, please. I have here a proclamation, and it reads, whereas since 1986, the Department of Defense has recognized military children during the month of April because of their service commitment and their sacrifice in supporting the Army's mission. It is important to honor and celebrate our military's youngest heroes, and whereas the month of the military child is an opportunity to remember children's role in strengthening the military family. This year's theme is Military Children Brave, Fearless, and Resilient. And whereas the theme recognizes that strong and resilient Army children are essential to the success of the Army's mission, and whereas living in different states, countries, continents, military children face unique challenges that most youth their age do not experience. They are equipped to adapt to the present and the future changes, such as permanent changes of station, deployment, reintegration, care of their wounded warrior parent, or coping with the loss of a father or fallen parent. Though each new step in life, they always remain ready and resilient. And whereas we, the leaders of Fort Novosel, along with Enterprise, are thankful for the positive and enthusiasm of military children as we keep moving forward. We are committed to maintaining excellence in schools, youth services, and child care to ensure that families always receive the best programming, no matter where their next adventure might take them. Now, therefore, I, William E. Cooper, Sr., Mayor of the City of Enterprise, Alabama, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Month of the Military Child, and encourages the citizens of Enterprise to observe the month and appropriate ceremonies and achievements and activities that honor and support our military children. I will now sign.
You want us to stand up? All right, we're going to stay with the mayor for another mayoral proclamation for National Community College Month. I'll call upon Mayor Cooper, who will read a proclamation declaring April as National Community College Month in the City of Enterprise.
I would like to call on President Long and his staff to come up. We have a proclamation here. It says, whereas on October 9th, 1963, the Alabama State Board of Education approved a resolution that a junior college would be located in the city of Enterprise, Alabama. And whereas Enterprise State Junior College first opened its doors for classes in September of 1965. Classes were held around downtown Enterprise, First United Methodist, First Baptist churches, as well as the Right Price store, an old furniture warehouse, and the local armory before moving into the permanent facilities still in existence today on the college campus. And whereas Enterprise State Community College now has 3 locations and serve more than 2,700 students annually throughout the academic, transfer, and career technical degree programs, certificate programs, non-credit training programs, and dual enrollment. And whereas Enterprise State Community College provides high-quality education and training to its students at a third of the cost of a traditional 4-year institution, while paving the way for transfer success and opening doors to high-demanded career, both locally and statewide. Whereas the college continues to develop strong partnership with industry leaders, government organizations, and local businesses to help determine and the development programs and certification training options to meet workforce needs and provide a pipeline for students to have direct access to jobs. And whereas Enterprise State Community College serves as a powerful engine and a prosperity to the students and the community, making an economic impact over $100.6 million for 2023 and 24 fiscal year alone. Whereas the community college's theme is Best Decision Ever, highlighting a student-centered campaign that focuses on how community college education can benefit students. Enterprise State Community College is committed to providing the best education and training to its students while meeting workforce and the education needs of the community. Now, therefore, I, William E. Cooper, Mayor of the City of Enterprise, Alabama, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Community College Month in the City of Enterprise, and do hereby encourage all citizens to recognize the Enterprise State Community College as its impact on our area. I will now sign.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations to everyone recognized. All right, next item on the agenda is a request to address the council for a permit request. Mr. Javier Delgado from the Beacon of Hope ABA. Is Mr. Delgado here? Don't see him. Blake and Chief, y'all good to go on this? All right, so this is a permit from the Beacon of Hope. They've requested to address the council to obtain a permit for the following event: Autism Acceptance Festival for Bates Memorial Stadium. It's from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., Saturday, April 26, 2025, with a rain date of May 3rd. I'll entertain a motion to approve this request.
I move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item is a request to address the council regarding a permit request from Ms. Stephanie Brumberg, representing FOMS DEBA. Is Ms. Brumberg here? Or Ms. Walden? Or it's Brumberg now, that's right. I forgot you got married. Stephanie,
Yes.
go ahead.
Oh, I'm just doing a date change, and we're changing it from Mutts and Music to Military Mutts and Music, because we don't think we're going to have a downtown specific military appreciation day in the middle of July like we normally do, because it's 150 degrees in South Alabama
So
and
this-
everybody's miserable. So we're just going to do it in May if y'all will let us this year.
So it's just, we've already approved it, we're just
Yep.
changing the name of the event.
Yep.
Chief, you good? All right, any questions from the council? I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a request to address the council regarding a permit request from Ms. Amanda Simmons, who we heard from in the work session from Christian Mission Centers. So Christian Mission Centers are requesting a permit for the following event: a Christian Mission 5K run from 8 a.m. 12 p.m. on Saturday, September 28th. Street closure from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. from Alberta Street, Fagan Street, and Airport Road, with a rain date of July 5th. Chief, you good with this? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the permit request as submitted. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have a request to address the council regarding a permit request from Brett Woodruff from Mitchell CDRJ. Is Mr. Woodruff here?
Here you go.
All right. Mr. Woodruff is representing Mitchell Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, who has requested to address the council to obtain a permit for the Jeep Roundup on Saturday, September 20th from 6 to 9 p.m. with a street closure from 6 to 9 p.m. at College, Easy, and South Edwards from Grubbs to 27. Anything we need to know?
We had our first event last year, and we're looking for a significant growth this year, and going to have a good turnout.
All right. Any questions from the council? Any concerns from chief or staff? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the permit request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the permit request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
All right. Next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. This is the part of the meeting where anyone in attendance tonight who wishes to address the council may do so for 3 minutes. If there is a public hearing on the agenda for the topic you are concerned with, please wait until that public hearing opens to address the council. If they choose, staff, mayor, and council will respond to your comments during the appointed times later in the meeting. Repetitive, disruptive, and disparaging comments will not be tolerated. If you are found out of order, your privileges can and will be revoked. Does anyone wish to address the council at this time? All right, I see no one, so we'll move on to staff reports. Any staff reports that were unable to be given during our work session? We'll move on to old business. First item is to review and consider ordinance 03-1825A, the personnel rules and regulations. I call for consideration of ordinance 03-1825A, providing to repeal ordinance 10-1601 as amended and to adopt rules and regulations governing personnel actions and establish procedures for the administration of the same. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 03-1825A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 03-1825A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to new business. We have a public hearing and consideration of Resolution 040125 to declare a weed nuisance and direct abatement. I introduce ordinance 040125 declaring the following property, which is overgrown with weeds, scrub, wild bushes, grass, and other vegetable growth as injurious to the health, safety, and welfare of the community as a nuisance, and ordering the property to be abated. That property being 0 Curry Alley. Notice concerning this matter has been published, posted, and served, and before acting on the resolution, the council will hold a public hearing. I now call for a public hearing as to anyone seeking to speak on the matter. At the conclusion of the hearing, inquiry will be made to the mayor, city clerk, city council, and city staff present as to if the city has received any written objection to the proposed removal of the weeds. So is there anyone that wishes to speak to the council tonight other than staff regarding this public hearing? It's the abatement of weeds at 0 Curry Alley. Anyone? All right. Now I'm going to ask the mayor, the city clerk, any members of the city council or city staff that are present this evening, if they have received any written objection to the proposed removal of weeds. Anyone?
The council's city staff has not received any written objection to the abatement of these weeds.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. All right. I will now just want to ask one more time, anyone here that wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing no one, I will now declare this public hearing closed and call for consideration of Resolution 040125.
I move to adopt Resolution 040125.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 040125. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will now review and consider change order number 2, the final for FY22 resurfacing improvements, which was Phase 3A. I introduce and call for consideration of change order number 2, final, submitted by Poly Incorporated for a decrease of $328,153.11 in the total contract amount with Wiregrass Construction Company Incorporated for FY22 resurfacing improvements Phase 3A. The change order increases the contract's substantial completion time by 83 calendar days and adjusts the total contract amount to $4,276,024.14. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the change order as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the change order as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now review and consider Poly Incorporated Task Order Number 63, Pre-Demolition Asbestos Reports. I introduce and call for consideration of the approval of Task Order Number 63 to Poly Incorporated for pre-demolition asbestos sampling, testing, and reporting at a cost not to exceed $75,000. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the task order number 63 as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Task Order Number 63 as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement regarding Volkert Incorporated and the Bowleville Circle widening. I call for a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Volkert Incorporated for engineering and design services related to the widening of Bowleville Circle between Highway 27 South and Highway 84 on the north side. Do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the police chief to execute a memorandum of understanding with Transaction Record Analysis Center. I call for a motion to authorize the police chief to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Enterprise Police Department and the Transaction Record Analysis Center, otherwise known as TRAC, related to the investigation of crimes of theft conducted through the wiring of money from one destination to another. Do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize the police chief to execute the memorandum of understanding as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the police chief to execute this MOU. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider authorizing the police chief to execute a memorandum of understanding with South Central Alabama Mental Health Board Incorporated. I call for a motion to authorize the police chief to execute a memorandum of understanding between the Enterprise Police Department and South Central Alabama Mental Health Incorporated. The agreement outlines the terms for mutual assistance and support between law enforcement personnel and the South Central Mental Health Board during mental health crisis situations. Do I hear a motion?
I move to authorize the police chief to execute the memorandum of understanding as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the police chief to execute this MOU. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now consider a request for improvements to splash pads. I introduce and call for consideration of a request from Blake Moore, Director of Community Services and Recreation, to approve the purchase of the following FY25 budgeted items for improvements to the splash pad at Johnny Henderson Family Park. One chemical controller, equipment only, from Hawkins Incorporated for $5,500, and one SCADA RTU platform at $3,985, and $35 monthly service fee from HighViz LLC. Do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize the purchase request as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the purchase request as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now recess the regular session of the City Council and convene into an E911 board meeting. All right, I'll now call this E911 board meeting to order. Let the record show that all members of the board are present. Council, the first item on the, or I'm sorry, board members, the first item on the agenda is the review of minutes from March 4th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve the March 4th, 2025 E911 board meeting minutes as written?
Move to approve the E911 board meeting minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes as written. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to old business, we have no items on the agenda. On new business, we have accounts payable A, March 2025. I will call for a motion to approve accounts payable A for March 2025 in the amount of $2,550.92. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve accounts payable A for March 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable A for March 2025. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The E911 board meeting will now stand adjourned, and we will reconvene in our regular meeting of the Enterprise City Council. Mayor, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. President. We were very fortunate that the storm yesterday did not cause any major damage locally. Our prayers continue to be with those in Dothan and others who are affected. Please note that city staff are working with local entities to work on ways to better share information and resources available to our citizens, especially during severe weather. I would like to remind our citizens to follow our city page for updates during severe weather. Thank you again for the representatives from Fort Novosel and Enterprise State Community College who came tonight for the proclamation signings. I also signed a proclamation last week with the staff of Beacon of Hope, ABA, in recognition of Autism Awareness Month. April is shaping up to be a busy month in the city of Enterprise, and we have so much to look forward to. This Saturday is Easter at the Farmers Market. Next Saturday, April 12th, is the Spring Showcase downtown Enterprise. The City of Enterprise is also proud to host the annual AUSA luncheon here at the Civic Center on the 10th of April. Tickets are still available, and this is a wonderful opportunity to recognize our local service members and veterans. Finally, the splash pad is now open for the season at Johnny Henderson Family Park. We have lifeguard certification classes happening next week at the new Recreation of the Quartet Center. We look forward to the pool opening in the coming weeks. Don't forget, you can find more information about the city news and events on our Facebook page and our website, enterpriseal.gov. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and we certainly applaud and commend our military children and our community college. We appreciate our military families and our community college as well. Thank you all for coming.
Mr. Goolsbee?
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Have a good evening.
Mr. Paget?
Just going to say ditto to Sonia. Have a good night.
I want to thank everyone for coming and watching on the streamline up there. I can equate to the military child. I grew up in a military family, and we traveled all over the world. I had 4 children also that grew up with the military, so I'm very proud of our military. And I also had the great opportunity on March 22nd to go out and pick up some trash from my fellow warrant officers with the Above the Best Silver chapter of the U.S. Army Warrant Officer Association. They have adopted a mile between Santa Fe and between Good to Go. And we had quite a few folks out there to include family members and both active and retired warrant officers. And we ended up picking probably 10 bags of trash out there in that 1 mile piece. But I want to say thank you for those folks that were able to make that. And I want to thank Shannon and his folks with the sweeper. We did have a little damage over on my street in Janus with some trees down. And I also want to thank Coffee County EMA when I made a call to them in the morning to bring out some tarps for one gentleman. And we found out a gentleman across the street had some damage to the back of his house. So thank you for them. And Shannon, thank you for coming out so quick out there to take a look at that in the area. And God bless everybody. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Scotty, thank you for staying on top of all that stuff. I know you do so much more than what your council duties require, so appreciate your help with that.
Thank you.
But, with no more business, we'll stand adjourned until 5 p.m. Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. We'll see you in 2 weeks.